Shalom, 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 baby. Israel giving up praise Yahweh. Bashim Yahushua, Bashim B'chakadash. The bonus of the elders, the team that's Rubuah. Salutation to you. I come out there pushing his word, truth, sincerity, risking your freedom in your life to do so. Once again, back with another video. Said Iran announces new step in nuclear program. I don't know if it sounds like broken records, but it's essentially the war drums. You know, it's constantly being revved up. You know, the war drums, and how nuclear missiles are being built to eventually be used for the day of the Lord's wrath. You see. So it says Tehran will build its first homegrown research reactor, the country's vice president says. Iran will build a new domestically made nuclear research reactor near the city of Isfahan. The country's vice president and head of the National Atomic Energy Organization, Mohammed Aslami, said on Wednesday, "We are planning to officially start construction on a research reactor at the Isfahan nuclear site in the coming weeks." So jump down, says built in the 1980s, the Isfahan Nuclear Technology Center in central Iran is the country's largest nuclear research facility. In addition to being home to the UFC, it reportedly houses several Chinese-made research reactors, a fuel production plant, and other central nuclear infrastructure. So let's jump down, man. It says Iran has been gradually ramping up its nuclear program since former U.S. President Donald Trump 2018 decision to unilaterally withdraw the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. All right, which is like a peace treaty signed in 2015 by Tehran, and a group of 6 nations: the United States, UK, Germany, France, Russia, and China. The GCPOA, also known as the Iran deal, saw the Islamic Republic agree to significantly curb nuclear ambition in exchange for sanction relief. However, after the U.S. withdrew from the deal, immediately reimposed its previous sanction and later even introduced some new measures against Iran, Tehran began suspending compliance with parts of the GCPOA, including limits to uranium enrichment, which you need uranium for nuclear missiles. You need it. It's a heavy component. Even though the U.S. President Joe Biden has made clear his intention to revive the deal, efforts to save it have yet to show tangible results. With Washington and Tehran engaged in mutual finger-pointing over who is to blame for the lack of process, Iranian officials insist Washington must return to the original agreement, lift sanctions in full, while the U.S. claims Iran has been raising new demands during the talks. And, while Iran has long maintained its nuclear program for peaceful purposes, the recent ramp-up in its nuclear activity has raised some concern in the West, and it should be concerning. This is Revelations 11, verse 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe coming quickly. Now, what is woe in the Bible? Woe is essentially Shalakia. Woe is destruction, mass destruction. So when the scriptures say woe, it's talking about, mass destruction. A third woe, a third war. So it says the second world war is past. Now a third world war. You see? And this world war is gonna go nuclear. And we're gonna prove it. Isaiah 9 verse 5. For every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Right. So every ancient fight, every ancient war was literally fought, with swords, shields, bucklers. You see? That's how it was fought. It says confused noise, the sounds of swords hitting shields. That's how every ancient war was fought. But this, where it says, and garments rolled in blood, right, man? You know, your blood be soaked from cutting a man's limb off, his arm off, or his head off. That was how ancient wars were fought. But it said, but this shall be with burning and futile fire. So Iran, you know, ramping up nuclear research center in Tehran is indicative of global war. Because these missiles are not going to sit in a museum. Eventually, they're going to be used, man. And it's going to be the day of the Lord's judgment. And this is with John C. on the island of Patmos. Revelation 15, verse 2. And I saw as it were to see a glass mingled with fire. Now, where was John when he seen this? John was in an aerial view, looking down. Now, how could John be in a position to look down and see a sea of glass mingled with fire? John was in a chariot on who the world calls UFOs or spaceships, looking down from the spaceship on Earth. And seeing the Earth, which is looks like a sea of glass, because the Earth looks like a glass ball with a sea in the middle of it, like the sea inside of it. But he said, sea of glass mingled with fire, meaning he's seen the Earth being engulfed with fire, with flames. You see? That's because the nuclear missiles were shot off and hit the Earth, and John was delivered by, the UFOs, so-called, which is the angels of Yahweh Shem Shah, the saviors of Israel, you see, which is going to beam up the elect of Israel to escape the judgment of fire, which is the second death. He said, them that had gotten the victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name stand on a sea of glass having the harps of the Most High. What does it mean to stand on a sea of glass? Meaning to look down on the earth from an aerial view in heaven. Because you refused the MOTB, the mark, and chose rather to suffer persecution and agony than to suffer the fate of an infidel. And therefore you were delivered, you see. But those that didn't, they got caught in the sea of fire, which is the Third World War, the nuclear fallout. You see? So it's about time for the game plan to stop. We in the end, like very end. So I'm not going to hold this video up too long. Just pay attention, man. Until next video. Shalom.